You will be surprised at how many plants one person can fit in their house. Hi friends, welcome to Sunflower Hill. I'm Tina and this is not my farm. No, it is my farm. It's just the inside of my house. Today, something a little bit different. I'm going to be showing you my indoor growing arrangements. So I have a lot of house plants that I grow just for fun and enjoyment and that make my world a better place to be in. I adore my indoor house plants and they don't have to provide me with food or anything, because I'm fortunate enough to have outdoor space. But I know a lot of people aren't. People live in cities or apartments, apartments in cities, and don't have outdoor growing space or have a tiny backyard, or are renting and need a growing space to be portable and indoors. I've been in all of those situations, and so I've come up with ways around things. And I also like to grow plants that don't love my climate. They're tropical plants. I have set up various things to grow plants and grow them successfully indoors, and you too can do the same thing, or you can use a bit of the information I'm giving you and do something else with it. But right now I would really love to show you my plant collection. I'm going to be a bit indulgent and show you some of my beloved house plants, as well as some of the indoor growing setups that you might be able to use to grow food inside for yourself as well, or just plants in general to keep you happy. Thank you for joining us here at Sunflower Hill, and let's go have a look at everything. I'm so excited to show you. I've just had new windows installed, and I think the plants are enjoying it as much as I am. It's midwinter and they're just getting the low sun through these beautiful new windows. They really didn't get much sun through the old windows because they were very thick. Yeah, and I've got a grow light on as well, but you can't even see the grow light. Nothing better than sunshine. We just haven't got a lot of it this time of year. Scindapsus, Pictus exotica, climbing up the wall. Loads of things in here. Dark Lord. I've got lots of plants all over the place, but then we've got this Aurea variegated Syngonium podophyllum, and this is a little Philodendron eximium, variegated Stanleyana, Monstera Stanleyana. I've got an Aurea variegated, very highly variegated one back here, and this is after I added the diatomaceous earth. Look at that. That leaf has almost no green and it's perfect, whereas this one, these ones down here before I added the diatomaceous earth were going that way, and that has stopped. I haven't had any more deterioration in that leaf since I added the DE. I am gathering that, and this again happened before, and it's stopped and it's gone hard, and there's been no further deterioration in that leaf since I added the DE. I gather they need the silica for the cell walls. So I think the white parts of the leaf, the cell walls are probably not very strong and lacking chlorophyll. They kind of drop them, but if you give them enough silica, then they can hang on to those white parts at least for a lot longer. In the back here I have my little UPI friend. I just love these guys. Look at his little ears and his, oh, excuse me, belly, and his big nose. They're just adorable. They are so cute. So this is not a tissue culture. This is the original UPI that was grown before tissue culture. Before they were tissue culture, I should say. So the value has dropped a lot, but that's the original. Oh, and there's a white knight hiding in there as well. Not getting the light it should. So the fruit of Monstera deliciosa is delicious. I have not eaten it, just saying that right now, but it is certainly edible, but it has to be properly ripe, and that's a bit beyond the scope of this video to explain how to do that. but I can link a video, or you can go look that up. This guy here is an Anthurium ballioanum. Very cool plant. Again, these leaves aren't even mature yet. And there's a little fern in there. That's an adiantum, a bird's nest fern in there. He's very happy. And back over here, there's quite a few different philodendrons. I won't go over each one, but that's a Linhanenform Plaumannii. There's a few gloriosum there in that pot. It's another Anthurium. Absolutely gorgeous. I love the shimmer on this one. This is oh, I'm completely lying. The other one was Brownie Eye. This one is Ballioanum. So this is absolutely an absolute favourite as well. They propagate via node cuttings. So I'm going to do that soon. Happy to show people if you're interested. So in here we have some other stuff. There's some syngoniums. That's a pink spot. And this is a really beautifully variegated Epipremnum pinnatum. So this grows very long leaves with splits in it, like they're called dragons. They're one of a couple of plants that are called dragon's tail. This one here is a little Philodendron eximium. Super cute little plant as well. Well, not little, not so little. And in here there's some more syngonium. There's a little red spot in there somewhere. And this down here is, I think this just popped up actually on the back of the sink. I think one of the kids was eating it. It's a carob. It's a baby carob tree. I think one of the kids was eating a carob pod and left a seed on the back of the sink, and it popped up. I didn't know what it was, so I've chucked it in this pot on the heat mat down there, and that I'm now quite sure is a carob because I have grown them from seed before. Some other stuff, the Aurea variegated deliciosa. It's not very highly variegated, this one. This one down here is. So I'm just waiting for this new leaf to show its colours, because that's the propagation leaf. Whoa. Oh, come on, buddy. That's the propagation leaf there. It's dusty. And this is a baby leaf from the Ballioanum. I think they're one of the most adorable things is baby Anthurium leaves. They come out absolutely tiny, this big, and then they come out that size, and then they inflate through this, and they wind up like this. So that's a very cool plant. And this in here is one of a couple of Thai constellations. This is a really slow grower, this one. And again, he's a bit dirty. Sorry, buddy. But really nice variegation on that one. These all grow on moss poles. I'll leave a link down the bottom to Sydney Plant Guy's channel. He is the one who's popularised and who came up with this chop and extend method. They root into the pole, and so you propagate them as they go, and it not only gives them support, but it gives them extra water, extra root space, and you can I have a nutrient solution in there as well. So these all have rooted into the pole. And especially something like this Braziliform deliciosa. It's a small form, they like to climb. So there are two forms of Monstera deliciosa. This Aurea here, or yellow variegated, is small form. Small form have really large internodal spaces. So those spaces between where the leaf grows out, that's a node, and the space in between there is very long. So this is a node here, and a node is where you can propagate from because it has undifferentiated cells. So the cells at this point can produce leaves, new growth, roots, a whole new plant, but in the stem tissue they can't. So the nodes are really important for this type of plant. Every plant is different, but for aroids like this you definitely need nodes to propagate them, and the distance between the node in deliciosas will tell you whether it's a small or large form. They are different plants. Small form wants to climb, so you need to give, if you've got a small form, you need to give it a pole like this to climb, and ideally a moss pole, not a cococoya pole, which is what most things that are sold as moss poles are not moss. They're cocoa coir, so just be careful. They don't. I cannot recommend moss poles highly enough, and that in my experience it has sized up. The leaves on this were this size when I put it on the moss pole. Next leaf after the pole was that, then this, and now this size. So it really does size them up. And then this beautiful guy here, I just love this. This is sized up massively also since I put it on the pole. It was, the biggest leaf was that, and now they're like this. These ones here are large form. This is a node here, and that's another node down there. So they're really close together, and they don't want to climb. They are bushy. So they have an almost bushy form. They'll sit up themselves. They're almost like a tree. They support themselves. And I started out with monsteras because I wanted to try the fruit. Anyway, they're enjoying this bit of sun, and now the sun is going back in behind the clouds again. But it was nice to have a bit, wasn't it, guys? It's good to see that actual shaft of sunlight come through the window, because then I can see that these guys actually are getting light from outside as well as from the grow light up there, which is 100 watt up there. It's 100 watt grow light, and it does all of these guys and all my deliciosa large forms and various other little things over there. And this box I push around, that's got it's got some plants in there too. I cram in plants wherever I can. There's all my propagation boxes. They probably get a bit from it too. They've got their own grow lights in there. Okay, so what we're looking at here is my stack of grow boxes, of propagation boxes, and I mainly use those to propagate the house plants, but I do also propagate some outdoor plants and some herbs and food plants in here. They can be really great for propagating trees, young trees from cuttings, because they give you a really, really nice humid environment, and I use heat mats in between them to give them warmth. Let me just turn off these grow lights because they're pink and it makes it a little bit hard to see. And yes, I have turned my closet into a propagation station. So in here are some propagations. Those are mostly aroids. In there you can see a monstera that's variegated. It's an elbow variegation, so that's a nice balanced variegation. So that was a good plant to propagate from. And up here I've got some rare begonias. We'll have a look in the boxes shortly, but this is a bit of an overview of how I actually stack them. So in between each box there's a heat mat. The heat mat does both the box underneath and the box on top. Because I have a layer of sphagnum, it doesn't overheat the boxes. So you'll see up here with the in here, there's a heat mat here. In between these two boxes there's a layer of sphagnum, which is what keeps the moisture in and allows the plants to propagate, keeps the humidity in, and you can see it rains when I open the lid. So you can so the plants in this box absolutely adore that kind of humidity. But if you have plants that want a lower level of humidity, like these ones down here, these house plants that I'm growing on, then you can certainly drill holes in the boxes to get a bit of aeration coming through. So because of this layer of sphagnum, it both keeps the humidity in and it allows the plants to propagate. They just root straight into the sphagnum in the bottom of the box, but it also gives them a layer of insulation from the heat mat. So the heat mat just keeps it at a pleasant temperature. You do not have to have thermometers and stuff. This one is one I already had from incubation, but it's at 22.7, which is brilliant. That's Celsius, obviously. That's brilliant for these kinds of plants that I've got in here. And that's it. It's really very, very simple. And the beauty of them is that it creates a perfect propagating and even growing environment so that you can grow plants on really quickly. The plants in here are just all potted up. They're not propagating. They have already got roots. I have already propagated them in one of these, planted them into pots, and then they're sitting in here. They grow on really quickly. Even if you use it over winter, if you're in a colder climate like me. My climate's not cold, it's cool temperate. But you know, even our winters, and it certainly gets cold enough that the plants really appreciate being grown on in a setup like this. Okay, let's have a little look at what's inside them. So this is a quick little look inside some of my propagation boxes. These are just plastic boxes that I've bought from supermarkets, to be honest, or picked up wherever, and they're amazing for growing plants. This guy here is a begonia chloristicta. Sorry, brain not work. It's a bit hard to see him properly with the light behind him like this, but stunning plant. I absolutely adore begonias, and they do really need more specific conditions than a lot of other plants. These here are the begonias in this box are all little species begonias. As I said, this is chloristicta, which is a very, very beautiful plant. This one here has got very red, but that's how it looks without the light behind it, and it's got very red backs of the leaves are very red. Again, a bit hard to see. You can see that leaf down there, and the flowers are red and pink, which are just gorgeous. And it's happy. I mean, look at that. Look at that. Stunning plant, one of my favorites. So down here there's some species begonias, and there's a little Monstera obliqua Peru there. They were horrendously expensive a couple of years ago, but now are pretty easy to get. So that's one I grew from a wet stick. There's some more begonias down here. If people are interested, I can do a houseplant tour and show you all the plants I have, because they're not food plants, but they're stunners. So this down here, that was one of my favorites. There's a story to that, but there was a I had begonias in a place where they got powdery mildew, and all of the adult plants of these just about died. I got rid of the powdery mildew, but too late. So these are leaf propagations. Begonias propagate from leaves, not completely. These chloristicta, for example, are cane begonias. You can see they grow upright, like a little tiny miniature tree, I suppose. And for those you need a node to propagate, so they're not as easy. For example, this down here is a propagation of chloristicta. Actually, this is the green form of chloristicta, which has recently been reclassified as with a U number. Let's see if I've got the number in here, and I don't. Oh yes, I do. U038 is the U number. So U just means stands for unknown begonia species. So it was classified as a chloristicta, the green form, whereas this is the red form. And there's some other beauties down here. So some of these, I'm going to struggle with the names, particularly these Chinese ones. So this one is Jing Jiensis, and I'm no doubt will have butchered that name, but I just adore these leaves like little galaxies. This one here is a hybrid that I bought from a seller who hybridized these begonias. I have actually, because this little guy down here, which is BUO begonia U074, this one here, which is also stunning. It's in flower as well. It has these adorable little hello little pale pink flowers. So I actually had a crack at pollinating this with these. So on begonias, this is a female flower. You can see it's got the seed pod. It's just like a seed pod, sort of tri-lobed with wings, and then it's got the flower here. So that's the female. And these are male flowers down here on this plant because they don't have the seed pod behind them. That's a female that my finger has on it, and these are males. They're just flowers at the back there. There's no little winged seed pod. So I did try to tried to pollinate that with this, and we'll see how we go. And this little guy in here is a tiny little baby chloristicta. See how that goes. Which one is that? I think that's the It's not Metacroa. These ones here are Metacroa. So that's gorgeous. You can't really, whoop, go give them their label. You can't really see how stunning they are. The light isn't quite right, but you can see a bit of the iridescence. They get a really dark green, blue, sort of really dark iridescence to them. These ones are propagations again from my mother plant. I've got a really, really thriving Metacroa mother plant. Whatever that was, this is a downside of begonias because some of them just melt. And what on earth was in there? I hope it's something I already knew was dead. But Curtisii, well, it was like this when it arrived, to be honest. It didn't survive the mail. This one here, this leaf, is Ningmingensis. So that is a species from China. And you can see the little baby leaves, which is so good because that's another one that suffered from the powdery mildew attack, which was very sad. I did manage to stop it, but that's another story. Anyway, I lost most of my special guys before I did. So this one again, same. This is Chloronura. I've moved the parent of this into another box. It's hanging in there, but it's not happy. This guy is Milano Ballata, so I'm hoping desperately to see some new growth on that. Again, that was a victim of the same thing, as was this guy. This is, oh gosh, name, Versicolor, special Versicolor Tang form, beautiful plant. And these are really common, easy to grow begonias that I'm propagating, but look how stunning. You can see why I love them. So the next space I want to show you is this greenhouse out in my laundry. We're going to dive right in there, but I've got some baby fruit trees propagating in there, as well as some more ornamental plants, some species begonias as well, and there's quite a few anthuriums in there. So let's dive into the top shelf and have a look. So that's Lycanora there. This is a really good propagation space. It's a brilliant propagation space. So the other use for it is to start your summer seeds. If you want to start your seeds, say in August, and you're in a cool climate, this is a fantastic way of doing it. It keeps them safe and you can keep them warm. The best part of it is not just that it keeps humidity nice and high, which for me is a massive bonus with the types of plants I'm growing, the indoor plants that I'm growing. Things like these baby anthuriums, which I've grown from seed, really, really like the humidity, and there's some Hoya propagations here. And these begonias. However, your propagations from trees, so these are gooseberries. These are gooseberries I'm propagating here. There's some figs around here. Any tree propagations that you take will absolutely appreciate the humidity, and I find this is a really, really good level of humidity that you get in this sort of greenhouse, because it's not, if you keep them in a box, they tend to grow but then rot. Whereas the humidity in here, there's enough circulation. And as I said, the beauty of these is that they zip up down the front. So they zip at both sides, and you can just unzip them and allow airflow, or you can zip them up. You can keep the bottom closed and the top open, or you can leave the whole thing open if you want to grow veggies in here. This is a really good cheap way to set up veggie growing, and we'll do a video on this if you only have indoor space. Now the other thing I have growing in here is sweet potato, because again, in my climate, it's not super happy outdoors. It certainly wouldn't survive winter, and this is a bit of an experiment. So you can see the parts of the plant where I forgot to water it. Sorry, but the rest of it looks pretty cool, because when it gets watered, it's really happy in here. Please ignore the wall being dirty. It's actually old stains, and I will get to it, but it's not as bad as it looks. So this is my experiment, and I will do a video showing my sweet potato growing experiment. There's also another one outside which has survived winter, but it has not grown like this one. This is vining right up the wall, and I have to keep bringing it back and putting it back into its box because it covers this grow light here. So this is one of the grow lights that I'm using, and this is the other one. There are lots of different types of grow lights, and again they I will do a video on an indoor setup if you want to grow food indoors, or if you want to grow ornamental plants for your joy, because that is actually just as important, I think, to be honest. Just plants, grow some plants, they make you happy. So this one has actually, this vine has popped down into this pot and taken root in there, so that's called a slip, and that's a new plant. The philodendron in there is doing extremely bad. I don't know what's wrong with it. It's a Birkin. I don't really like them, and I'm not looking after it properly, so I will do something with that. I'll probably give it away. So these grow lights are LEDs, and I strongly suggest LED grow lights. They use very, very little electricity. They're extremely efficient. They produce a lot of light and very little heat, and so they're very, very efficient with electricity. Much, much cheaper to run than most things. Same with the heat mats. The heat mats that I use, this one down here I think is 40 watts. The others are the smaller ones, like this one up here is 20 watts. They use very, very little electricity, negligible. I honestly don't notice them on my power bill. So if you're concerned about using grow lights and heat mats from a wasting or using too much electricity point of view, they really don't. I've been very surprised. I didn't use them for years for that reason, but they're really very negligible. And my reason for keeping everything enclosed like this is to use less power. So another thing I've done here is used bubble wrap, but this bubble wrap is reused from when I was doing felting. It's excellent insulation. So this bubble wrap is over the top of the of this greenhouse and around the back and around the other side, so that keeps heat in really well. It's very warm. With just those two heat mats, it stays very, very warm. And another reason for keeping them enclosed is that you concentrate your lights and you have them all in one area. So these lights, these two grow lights, this one and this one up here, which I'm going to mount as properly, do all of this sweet potato, these plants down here, and this greenhouse, which is pretty efficient. There are a lot of plants in there. There'd probably be 60 plants, 50, 60 plants in there. And they're very happy plants. Okay, friends, well, you might think that's your bloomin' lot, but no, it's not. There's actually a lot more plants, and you will be surprised at how many plants one person can fit in their house, because there's part 2 of this coming up very soon. There may actually be another video in the middle because it is spring and it's now heading towards mid-spring, and I've got an awful lot to do outside, and I want to show you some of that while I'm doing it. So part 2 may be delayed. It may be after another video, but it's coming up. So please don't lose faith. There will be more indoor plants and more indoor growing stuff to show you. But for now, that's part 1. And the reason it's part 1 is because there's so many plants and I can't fit them all sensibly into one video. So for now, it's hooroo from me, and it's hooroo from these guys. Hooroo, hooroo friends.